What up guys, in this video I'm gonna break down a UK garage / piano house track idea that I just made, and I'm gonna share all of my tips and tricks with you. So are you ready? Let's jump straight into the project. Okay, so I like being organized, so I have color coded everything. So all the yellow elements are all the melodic components. The blue ones are the drums. The red one is the Reese bass. There is the vocal chops with the purple, and then the last ones are the effects. So let's start from the top. Can actually start with the main thing, and that's the piano chords, these ones. These were like the main driver of the ideas with this UK garage piano house track idea. So this is in A minor. I just started by making some basic chords. I actually made them in another piano sound. So this one from Arturia. I'm gonna go back to the other one later. So I just started with this piano just to write the chords. So it's this one. So how I make my chords, I'm no music genius. I just go and find a scale that I like, and then I just keep staying in the scale with the notes. I also try to Google some cool chord progressions, and I just try to mimic those. So just put in these like chord progression here. I actually played it on my MIDI keyboard, and then I went into the piano roll and draw in these extra notes, and these were just by like feel. I didn't like know that these were gonna sound great, but I just tried it out and played it together with the drum beat, and it just sounded fine. So I just kept it as is. So that's like the majority of the time when I'm doing this, I will do this approach with my chord progressions and stuff. But I like to start with like just a basic piano, and then I can actually go and copy these MIDI patterns into another, like for this instance, like this M1 piano. I'm doing like these more rhythmic chord sounds here. So they are like really like rhythmic and choppy. If you have a good ear, you might hear that it's not like exactly on the grid. You can also see it here. I love to get like more swingy notes, so I pull these like off the grid, so everything is not hitting exactly on the grid. You can also see this one. And to me, it just gives the track a little bit more vibe and character. So you might be wondering where this piano sound is from. And it's from the Korg M1. And this like plugin doesn't need any introduction. It's an emulation of the hardware version that really dominated dance music in the 90s, I guess. So the preset that I'm using for this piano sound is the grand piano preset, and I'm using it in the only one sound. I think you can use like combination sounds, so you can combine different sounds in this plugin, but I'm only interested in using this only one here. If you want to find the preset, if you have this preset, this plugin, sorry, you can go to browser in program mode, and you can go on the piano, and there you have like grand piano down there, and you can just use that. One little extra bonus tip is that there is like some insert effects in the Korg M1 with an ensemble hall. I just removed that because I'm gonna add some reverb later on like a synth channel instead. And to get this really cool sound, I added some extra processing. So I'm just quickly gonna explain like the mixer channel here. Again, I like to use like all these like mix and buses, which are the green ones here. So I have like 3 different piano sounds. I'm gonna touch upon all of those later, and they are being routed into a piano mix bus. And this is basically just to treat all the different piano sounds as one. So I'm using like all of the different processing on all of the piano sounds. So for this one, this M1, it's in channel 3. The only effect that I added was a lather filter, it's called, from Kilohertz. It's a free plugin, but I just love like the low pass filter sound. And I didn't want the Korg M1 to have this like really high-end top noise, because I have some drums, some hi-hats that was fighting a little bit for attention. So this is, I'm just going to turn off all of the plugins so you can hear how it sounds without anything. Pretty cool. Then I have like this ladder filter. just filtering away some of the top end. And then it's being fed into this piano mix. And the first plugin is the Soothe. This is just to remove any resonant frequencies. It's a really, really great plugin. It's a little bit expensive, but if you have the money for it, I will definitely recommend you to invest in this plugin. It can really remove harshness from your sounds and make everything just sound much better. So on the display, you can see this is what's being removed. I can turn on the delta and play it. These are the resonances that are being removed in the sound, so we don't need those. Really cool. Okay, so the next plugin is the H delay, just adding some ping pong delay. And I'm using like the filters down here to remove the low end of the delay and also a little bit of the high end to get more like a lo-fi tucked in the back kind of delay sound. And it works really well with this like stabby Korg M1 piano sound. And then I'm using the CLA 2A stereo compressor. It just gives a little bit more warmth and also a little bit of volume. And then I'm using Neutron 3 and I'm using some different components here. The exciter just to add a little bit of tape saturation. It's just to color the sound a little bit, just subtle things that are being added to the sound. And then I'm using like a high pass filter just to remove any low end frequencies because I have the Reese bass and it's going to occupy this area down here. And then one cool trick that you can use if you are adding like these like more choppy, stabby piano sounds like the Korg M1 grand piano, you can add a transient shaper to get a little bit extra transient punch. So I've done that. It's really, really subtle. But it just adds that like last 5% of extra punchiness. Then I have the Ozone 9 imager just to make sure that everything sits well in the stereo field and also have like some extra width to it. So I'm splitting up the band so you can see this like upper range here from 6,000 hertz and upwards are being like really spread out, and these like more lower ranges are being reduced a little bit too. So it sounds nice in mono. And then the last one, the Fruity filter, is actually just for sidechaining to the kick drum. Yeah, that's actually like, this is like the main component of the sound. So one other cool thing that we can use like with the Korg M1 is to actually layer it with some piano texture. So this is the other sound that I have added here. You might be thinking, what is this sound? And this is actually another piano plugin from Contact. It's called Unicorda. But what's great about this plugin is that you can still have like as a piano, but you have like all of these different noises that are being generated from a real piano. So when you're like playing on the actual piano and the noises from the pianist, and like if you have for the pedals and the fabric on the heads of the moving parts inside the piano, you can actually emulate that and add that texture into your piano sound. But I don't want to have like the main, like the actual piano sound. I only want the noises and then these harmonics down here, because I want to layer this Unicorda on top of the Korg M1. And the reason why I want to do this is to add some organic vibe to the Korg M1, because the Korg M1 in it by itself sounds a little bit digital. And by adding these like noises and textures from an actual piano, it can sound a little bit more human in a way. So layered on top of the Korg M1 sounds like this. And you might hear all of these like different small textures and effects that's happening in the stereo field. And if I take it off, it just brings the piano to life. And if we jump into the mixer channel, this is on channel 2. I've added some stuff here. This gate is only to remove there was like a noise at a really low signal volume. It was just to remove that because it might get printed into my audio clips if I were to render stuff. So this is just like a technical thing. not doing anything to the sound. This fruity hermetic EQ2 is just to remove the low end because that's not necessary. And then I'm boosting like with a high shelf, these upper frequencies with all of these like really cool texture and noises. And then I have the shaper box for some really cool panning. So it's panning in this pattern here from left to right, and it just adds like that bouncing from left to right feeling. So that's really, really cool. I definitely encourage you to try to layer your piano using these techniques. So the next component is this M1 organ. And you might know where the sound is coming from. It's coming from the Korg M1. It's also in like this one sound mode. And the actual preset is called Organ 2. So under Organ and select Organ 2. And then you have like this iconic classic organ sound, and it's just amazing. So what I did is that I played the lower notes of the chord progression, and then I changed it a little bit over here just to taste, just to how it sounded. So it's not following the root note here and at the last end of the bar, but it sounded great like together with the piano. So just layering it like underneath those piano chops, and it just sounds really full and just full of energy basically. So I've added some processing to the Korg M1 organ. So I've added the neutron free again. This is perhaps my favorite plugin. Again, the transient shaper, actually driving it a little bit much to also push the transients of the Korg M1. And then I also again an exciter with the tape saturation just to warm and color the sound. I wanted a little bit more of a distorted sound, and an equalizer. Again, remove the low end because I have the Reese bass, and I boosted this area up here and cut away some unwanted noise up here if we play the sample. You might see on the visualizer there are like some digital stuff happening up here which is actually not necessary in the sound. So I just removed it and then boosted this area a little bit to make it pop through the mix basically. And then the edge delay again, just to add some ping pong delay. I'm also using the filters as what I did with the piano. And the fruity limiter here is also just for sighting with the kick drum. So the next element, I'm just gonna try to be a little bit quick because I can talk forever and these videos are gonna be too long. So I have like these chord steps down here just to add some bounce. They sound like this. And they are actually following the chord progression of the piano. I'm adding a little bit of panning from left to right, just to add a little bit of interest. These chord steps are coming from the old Silent 1, and it just sounds analog to me, and it just has this like really old sound that just is really cool. Processing wise, I think, I added this Haas effect, also from Kilohertz. This is also free, just to spread it out, like make it really stereo and wide. And then I added some EQ to remove low end, and also high end that's not necessary. Again, making room for the hi-hats and also the vocals up here. And then this Panomatic is just for panning the sound. So together. This makes sense when we are introducing the kick drum and all the drum elements because it just fits the vibe really nice. This is like the first part of the drop. I have like a part B where I'm introducing some more melodic stuff. I'm introducing the piano that I showed in the beginning, this one. And it's from Arturia, the Piano 5. Amazing plugins from Arturia. They are really, really high quality. I know they are expensive, but if you have the money for it, it's really worth it. So, and I actually didn't add any processor to the individual piano sound, but it's being routed into the piano mix. And the piano mix is actually also being routed into a reverb synth over here, just to add a little bit of reverb. And it's just a fruity reverb too. So I'm putting the dry all the way down because it's a synth channel. So I don't want to have the dry signal. I only want to have the wet signal. I don't want to use any fancy reverb if I'm just going for like a basic sound. And this was just what I was aiming for. And you can also save some CPU in the meantime. So that's really cool. And then down here, I'm cutting away like the low end of the reverb. So when it's being sent back into the master channel, it doesn't have like any like unwanted low end to it. Let's jump through some, let's just play like this Arturia piano together with the 3 other piano elements. So So this like Arturia piano really fills up the frequency range in a really like warm and nice way. So if I take it away, and I really love to play around with layering. Okay, so let's move on. Like I have this drone thing here. This is just one sustained A minor chord. I think it's coming from the Prophet 5 from Arturia. And then I'm adding like auto panning to it. And I just bounced it to audio. And it's just being, yeah, it just has like the side chaining from the fruit limiter. That's actually it. So it just works as is. So the last melodic components that I have is this like dunk bass fill. A little bit crazy on its own, but it makes sense in the context of the track. So I like to have like different filler elements in between my sections just to add some variation and changes. This is just coming from, I think it was from a Serum preset, like a dunk bass preset, but I just used like really high octaves to generate this sound. Actually only like being sent to the reverb send just to get a little bit of like space. So let's just hear like all of the different elements, the melodic components together. Really nice. And when I'm like picking all of my sounds, I also do some volume balancing. So I'm always looking for what is the main element. The main element here in this instance is the Korg M1 piano, and then the organ one, and then all of the rest are just like trying to support the sounds from these, like from the piano and the Korg M1. So I don't want everything to be super loud. I always try to dial back the faders to make room for everything, basically. So you can see like I dial back my faders a lot for some stuff. So yeah, the last thing with all of the melodic components is that they are being routed into an instrument bus. This is also just to make everything sound more joined together. So on this instrument bus, I have the Soothe 2 again, just to make sure like in this like 400 hertz area and this like 2K hertz area, just make sure that there aren't any like annoying resonances that might interfere with the other elements in the track. It's just to remove some stuff. And then I'm using a little bit of equalizer. Again, removing low end. And then I'm boosting these areas here because I wanted to really, that's where the energy lies of the different melodic component instruments. So I just want to push them a little bit more. I'm using the solid bus compressor. This is just to glue together all the different sounds. I'm not doing that much gain reduction. Around -2 to -3 dB of gain. And these are like the settings, like a ratio to 2, like just a little bit of threshold and like slow attack, fast release. So yeah, and then I'm using like this tape emulation plugin. It's from Waves, it's the J37, and I use this like quite a lot, and it just makes everything sound a little bit more warm. I know that this is like a weird term, but it just sounds more warm, basically. And yeah, that's like... Let's turn off like all of different instruments, like all different effects on the instrument bus. And this is with. Everything just sounds a little bit more tight in my opinion. Okay, so I spent a lot of time talking about the melodic components, but I'm so excited just to share my tips and tricks with you guys. So I really hope you're still with me in this video. So I'm ready to jump into the drums now. And let's just start with the kick drum. Just some like shuffly UK garage styled like 2-step pattern. Sometimes I do it in like an actual pattern like this up here, but I just wanted to do it like with audios because then I can see like the actual wave file, and then I'm using like turning down the volume for these like small hits here with the groove, like this one. And also this one is like a little bit low in volume just to create a little bit of like dynamic changes and also some rhythm. That's cool. I don't think I did any like processing. I think this kick drum is actually from my sample pack called Favorite Kicks. Yeah, it is. If you're interested, you can go check that out in the description down below. So no processing on this. If you look at my mixer in FL Studio, I'm routing like this into a lot of stuff. these ones over here are like sidechaining routing. So that's being routed into that fruity limiter to do some sidechaining. I'm going to show you that on the bassline later, so you can see my settings. And then it's also being routed into a low-end bus, and it's going to be routed there together with the bassline. And this is just to do some overall processing to the bass-heavy stuff. Next, I have a clap. Just adding like these extra like skippy notes. Then I have like a snare. Just layered on top of the clap. Then I have some hi-hats. So let's jump into the patterns here. So this is like a closed hi-hat. Yes. And if I zoom in, you can see like I love to put this off the grid because it just gives it a little bit more bounce. So nothing is like strictly on the grid. Besides these hits right here. But it just gives like that extra like kind of shuffly, bouncy kind of vibe to it. Then I have like an open hi-hat. This one. And then layered with another open hi-hat. This one. And they are panned like to the left, to the right. So we're creating some stereo effects to the track. Really cool. And then I love to layer like my programmed drum hits with some actual samples from Splice or from like a sampled CD or a sample folder or something. So I'm using like top loops like this. And this one. Just at like a really low volume. And I think these are actually also panned from, the one is panned to the left and the other is panned to the right to also create some stereo. This is just to support like all of my programmed drums. With some extra vibe and movement. I've also routed these like top loops to a mixer track. And then I've added a transient shaper and pulling away some of the sustain so they are getting like a little bit more shorter and more tight. And then being routed into a drum bus. Okay. And then the last drum element is just a ride loop. And it's going from left to right with just the fruity panomatic. So set to the LFO, to panning. So you can see this is how it moves. So it's also just to add some interest, basically. Like all of my decisions when I'm producing is to try to add some kind of interest to my sound. Make it interest for the listener to listen to my stuff. Okay, so these are all of the drums. So I mentioned that they're being routed to a drum bus. So everything like clap, snare, closed hi-hat, open hi-hat, ride loop, and top loop are being routed into a drum bus. And it's also, again, with the instrument bus to glue stuff together. So I'm using Neutron 3, and this is to just use these like 6K hertz area because it was a little bit too resonant. And yeah, just a subtle thing. And then I'm using a solid bus compressor. The same settings as the instrument bus. And then I'm using the tape machine plugin with a little bit of saturation just to crush the drum hits. Just to give it a little bit of vibe. And then the last one is just a fruity parametric EQ to remove the low end because that's not necessary. Because my kick drum is being routed to another channel. So it's not being routed to this one. Really cool. And I think this just makes everything sound more joined together because we have used like programmed drum one-shots and also the loops from Splice. And by having everything put into one like channel, like the drum bus, it just sounds more like as one full drum loop, like a drum loop that plays together. Hope that makes sense. So now we're ready to jump into the bass. So I'm just going to keep the drums playing with the bass. So this is the Reese bass. This is following the root notes of the chords, and this is just a basic sound. Like I'm a preset guy. In Analog Labs from Arturia, you can have like you have a lot of different presets, and I just love like that you can just search for different sounds and use taggings and to just find sounds that you want. And I just wanted a Reese sound. I typed in Reese. I found this one from Pigments. I didn't do any like tweaking to the sound because it just worked as is. And I think that's really key. Don't try to spend too much time on trying to make everything yourself. If you find a sound that fits the vibe of your track, just use it. So I've routed this to a mixer track, and the only thing that I've actually added to the Reese bass is just a fruity limiter for sidechaining. So now I can actually show you how I use sidechaining in FL Studio. So in my channel, I have routed the kick drum as a sidechain trigger input into the channel of the Reese bass. Down here, you just right click and you press sidechain to this track. Then you add the fruit limiter, you put it into compressor mode, and then down here on sidechain, you select the kick drum. And these are my settings, like with high ratio, really like a low threshold, and it just pumps with the track. Just adding so much vibe to this track. It's really cool. Let me just play you like everything together, because some of these like piano sounds and the Korg M1 organ line is also being sidechained to the kick. So now you can hear like how it's pumping with the kick drum. Like, to be honest, I actually think this idea is pretty cool. I got really excited when I was doing it, so I couldn't like wait to do the recording of this video. So as you might hear, everything is really sounding full, and the frequency spectrum is already sounding full, but we can add a little bit of extra stuff. So I've actually added some vocal chops, and I'm really excited to show you the result. So these are the vocal chops. So this is actually me pulling in a splice sample and then chopping that splice sample up into small bits. So these are all of the different individual hits. The woman is actually singing phrases, but right now it doesn't sound like actually like singing. It's just like small steps and rhythmic stuff. And that's because I chopped everything up into small bits and pieces and just rearranged it to make like this cool melody thing. And then I pitched it down, and then I bounced it to audio, because then it was a little bit more easy to work with. And then I added some effects to this vocal chops. So the vocal chops are being sent to the reverb synth channel. So now everything like the piano, the organ line, and the vocal chops, they have the same reverb on it. So it sounds like it's being in one space. So if I just take off the different plugins that I have on the vocal chops, they sound like this. So I don't want to have so much of that signal going on with the vocals, so I'm cutting away a lot in the Fruity Parametric EQ 2. A lot of the low end is being cut away, 277 Hertz, boosting a little bit around here, and then I'm removing like some of the really highs here. It just sounds really nice, and then I'm feeding it into like the delay free. On ping pong mode with some feedback and cut a low pass cutoff on the feedback, so we're cutting away like the upper frequencies of the delays. And then I'm adding like the shaper box, 2 components. Firstly, a sidechain just to duck the signal. And then I'm using the panning element again, because I love this element. It's really cool to make everything move from left to right in a cool way. So I'm using like a pattern here, rhythmic pattern, and then the mix at around 50% almost. And this just moves everything from left to right in a really cool way. So it's not just in the middle. And the fruit limits are also just for sidechaining to the kick drum. And I think this, it just fitted the vibe totally. So like this is everything. Really cool. So yeah, there is like a little bit more to those vocals. So I mentioned that I love to do fills just to add some interest. So this part here is my like drop B section, and this is like the drop A section. So going into the B section, I wanted to do something that was a little bit like cool. So I wanted to change the vocals a little bit. So I actually chopped out some small bits that you can see here. So it's doing like the stutter kind of thing. And in the context of the track, it just does some kind of variation, and it's unexpected to the listener because you're expecting to hear this part here, but it's just been changed. And that's like those small details make a huge difference to the total track. Okay, so for this like B part of the drop over here, I actually did something cool to the vocal chops. I blurred them out. Sounds like this. So it sounds like really like atmospheric. It's actually pretty easy to do this in FL Studio. I just copied like the vocal chops, and then I right clicked here. I edit it in audio editor in Edison, and then you go up here and press this like drop here, raindrop, and then you open the blur, choose an amount, and then you just press accept, and then it just gives you this file down here. And it's also just being routed into the same vocal chop channel. And I just wanted to do something completely different. Instead of just having the same vocal chops playing in the B part, it's just naturally changing. So in the context of the track. It's just like, it's kind of like floating in the air, and I think it's really, really cool effect. And again, it's just something unexpected, and you're playing with the listener's attention, and I think it was really cool. It just fitted the vibe totally. We're actually really close at being at the end, so the last elements are just some like texture loops. So this one is actually a recording when I was on vacation and in Mallorca. So it's in Palma. And if you're interested in getting like these field recordings, you can buy them on my web shop. I have a sample pack called Mallorca Ambiences Volume 2. I think field recordings are so awesome to add to your track in the background, just to give it like a little bit of extra like organic vibe to it. I've added like a cassette noise recording as well. Add really low volume, but it just adds a little bit of extra texture. So you can hear this. Just a subtle thing, but it really just adds extra character. That should be the word of this video: extra character and vibe. I'm routing these texture loops into a mixer channel, and I'm using the Fruity limits of a sidechaining, so I want to dock away the signal when the kick drum hits. And then I'm using like the built-in equalizer of the channel to remove the low end, basically down here. And it's just being mixed in at a really low volume. And then I have like cymbal crash, downlifter. I have this like sweep. Yes, and then I have like these laser kind of effects down here. This one, a fill, this one, and this like iconic UK garage thing with some delay on it. I love to play around with these kind of sounds in the background because they just add that like sprinkle on top of the cake. And then I have like a sweep up here in the build-up. And then like some chimes here in the beginning. So yeah, that's actually it for all of like these effects, but they do like some extra work to the sound. Like pay attention to these laser effects down here. It's just kind of magic in my opinion. Like try to go on Splice or dig into your sample folders and try to find some Foley sounds, found sound, recorded sounds, or you can actually go outside and record some stuff and try to put it in your tracks, mix it in at a really low volume, try to do some rhythmic stuff with it and just blend it in. And it can actually sound pretty cool on together with your elements. So that's actually it for this breakdown. I really hope you enjoyed it. I know like that this video got really long, but I just wanted to show you all of the tips and tricks that I used to make this track. So let's just listen to the full idea. Enjoy. Mind-blowing. Okay guys, we are finally finished with this long video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, it would mean so much to me if you smash that like button or even subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss any future videos on the channel. If you're interested in getting the project file and the stems, you can download them in the link in the description down below. I've also launched a Discord server for producers. It's a place where we can share our track ideas, get feedback, provide feedback. It's generally just a cool place to hang out and talk about music and stuff. And I really want you to get involved. If you want to, you can join the Discord via the link in the description down below. If you want to support the channel even further, you can go and browse some of my sample packs and preset packs on my web shop. The link is also in the description down below. So I hope to see you in the next video. Take care. Peace.